Well, there you go. You hear the music. Yeah, it's that day. Time for your Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast. Joining us today, realty expert John Brodeen. Coming in on a cold day today, John. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good. It's good to be back in here with you guys, though.
You know, I think we've been kind of spoiled this winter as far as the weather goes and the temperature and the snow and all that stuff. But what a slap in the face the last couple of days.
I was just thinking of that when I was walking in here.
I had to start my car twice this morning.
There's a buddy of mine from my gym that is here from California.
Oh.
And we were all telling him, hey, we promised it gets cold here. It's just, I don't know what's up with this winter. But now he gets to see what it's like.
You know, I have a friend that wears shorts 365 days a year, and I ran into him yesterday. Yeah, and I said, come on, man, you got to be getting cold. He goes, no, I was actually out snowblowing. He goes, I got more to do. And I said, you're not cold. He goes, no, it's not bad. And I go, your legs are blue. Dude, I mean, they are blue. He says, no big deal.
Doesn't care.
Haven't talked to you since before New Year's. How'd that go for you?
Yeah, it was good.
Uneventful?
Yeah, right around New Year's.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it was pretty uneventful. I'm trying to think what we did. I think the wife and I just stayed in, if I remember right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't do that much anymore.
We don't
Used
either.
to be a big deal.
Yeah. I call it amateur night.
Yeah.
I like to stay home if I can.
Yeah.
Well, we're into a new year now. We've been talking about this the last couple of months, how things could possibly change in the new year with the election and all that. But let's talk about last year, the 2020 market. Now, how did that actually compare to years past? I mean, we had the pandemic. We had all these things going on. But how would you rate 2020 comparing it to years past, John?
You'd think it would be a really rough year for the Grand Forks real estate market, but exactly the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. One of the biggest things is that the interest rates dropped so dramatically, and that's always a shot in the arm for the real estate market. Gets the buyers out there wanting to purchase. And then the other thing we saw happen, and probably due to COVID, was way fewer listings on the market. So in 2019, average of 306 listings on the market when you average out how many listings were on the market at the end of every month, right? This year, 235 listings. And that really, so it's the year started pretty normal, like in line with 2019. And then it dropped and dropped and dropped as the year went on. So it's far below the average. Even right now, it's like 159 active listings on the market, which is crazy low. In November, listings dropped below 200 for the first time since 2016. So it's kind of the perfect storm. It's the type of conditions that are going to cause prices to go up. These are the same type of conditions. I mean, the average sale price between like 2013 and 2015 rose over 40 grand.
Oh,
so
okay.
When you've got a really hot seller's market, it's not like the average sale price just rises by 3% per year. Sometimes it averages out to about 3% per year, but it usually happens in bursts where you have a quick climb followed by maybe a plateau, followed by a quick climb. That last quick climb was around then, and kind of similar market conditions than what we're getting into now. June was the busiest month, so that's a lot later than usual. It's usually April or May. More homes sold this year. Last year, 700 homes sold. This year, 758 homes sold. Lots of activity, even with COVID. The price per square foot it's a great measurement of where things are at with the market. Some might even argue that it's even more of an accurate measurement than the average sale price or the median sale price.
Okay.
It went from $108.43 to $111.96. So that means no matter what size your house is, you're in most cases, you're getting more for it. The average sale price went up to $246,436. And that, not a huge climb there. I think it was like $245 last year, so not a huge climb. The median sale price dropped slightly. That usually kind of bounces around just depending on which bracket of homes sell more, during the year. Dropped slightly to $225, $283. And if you remember, the median, is when you take the top sale, the bottom sale, or you take all the sales, by dollar amount, you list them, and then the median is the one that's right in the middle. So it's going to depend on where the top sales are at, where the bottom sales are at, where they fell. So it's a little more random. So much stronger seller's market. So when we look at the end of every month and we say how many active listings are there, and we look and see how many pendings went through that month. You divide the number of active listings by the number of pendings, and you get the months of inventory. When you averaged out what that number was at the end of every month, last year it was 5.17. Anything below 6 is a seller's market. This year it was 3.73. So a lot more dramatic of a seller's market. Less inventory, more activity.
Okay, now when you were talking about square footage,
Yes.
now here's one thing I noticed. I did a lot of work on some of the newer housing, the new houses going up on the way south end.
Yep.
And it seems to me that there's this trend now of these goofy roof lines. There's no ranch style roofs being built anymore.
Yeah.
They've got these funky roof lines. And I don't know how, to me, it seems like it's a bunch of wasted space, but how does that count with the square footage? Because you really can't do nothing with these goofy roofs. I don't even know if you could put an attic in them because of the rafters and the roof joists and all that stuff. But how does that work? Because it just seems to me like you're giving up a lot.
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of it's just for the architectural look. Of the
aesthetics.
curb appeal. So that's the thing is when you look at the ranches being built now versus like the ranches from the 70s, you see a lot more peaks and stuff like that. It's just, in most cases, just attic space above those garages. Some people have, like some finished attic space that they use for storage, but not much more than that. So when we calculate this is total square footage. So it's not like the way an appraiser calculates gross living area is just the above ground square footage.
Yep.
This is total square footage.
Okay.
So doesn't factor in whether a basement's finished or not. Or if there's a basement at all. But yeah, it's just to clarify that. But I mean, I personally, I'm kind of a fan of the peaks,
they look cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be the roofer doing the job or the guy building the roof.
I know. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because when you look at like a neighborhood built after 2008 versus a 70s built neighborhood, you see these ranch houses look totally different.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Interest rates have been so phenomenally low.
Oh, I know.
And that's been the big question with the change in presidency and all of that stuff going on. Well, we've already seen gas jump, 30 cents a gallon probably.
Yeah.
Are the interest rates going to hang low for a while, or there's really no way to tell, is there?
There's no real way to tell, but the experts I've talked to, they think there's no reason that they're going to raise interest rate. Well, and the rates that the Fed, lends money at is not the same as mortgage interest rates.
Okay.
But from what I've heard, that is that the Fed isn't gonna, that they don't have plans to raise rates for a couple of years, and there's no real reason for. I mean, mortgage rates are great right now. If you were to all of a sudden jack those up, it would not be good for the economy.
No.
Especially trying to come back from pandemic and
Exactly,
everything.
because our economy is not doing very well right now, and that surely would not help.
Yeah. So the other side of that is people would argue that our interest rates right now are, in some cases less than inflation. So it's almost like free money, and that they might argue that's not sustainable. But the mortgages are front loaded, and so meaning that it's not like your interest rate. Most people aren't living in a house for 30 years. So if you get a 30-year interest rate of 2.7, if you only live in it for 8 years, you paid a lot more interest than 2.7%.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, usually spring is the hot time.
Yep.
And you said that was a little different this year, and I would imagine interest rates had something to do with that.
Yeah, interest rates and kind of the COVID panic in April. Much fewer homes listed, and that almost stayed the same through the entire year, which is kind of a blessing in disguise, because people who weren't as serious about selling their home stayed off the market. And that's what I recommend for people. If you're not serious about selling your home right now, stay off the market, because people think, oh, maybe I'll just hang my house up there at a high price. But if everyone did that, you'd have it would hurt all the sellers in town.
Sure.
Because you'd have more inventory and things sitting for much longer, and buyers would, it would turn it into more of a buyer's market, because remember, when inventory goes up, fewer sellers listing all year. Buyers seem to kind of take those spring months that are typically the hot months and sit on the sidelines, but then they came out in force during the summer. June being the busiest month for pendings. Normally it's April or May.
All right. So we talk about 2020. Is there a way to predict 2021? I mean, how do you guys do that? Or you just play along with the whole game?
No way to predict it. But from my experience, when I look at the amount of inventory that's out there right now, record low inventory, usually these are the lowest active listings. The lowest active listings on the market are going to be during December and January, but it's low even by December and January standards. And I don't see a whole, I think that if interest rates stay where they're at, and as long as inventory doesn't jump up to something crazy, we're going to have another really hot year. There's too many good things. The market seems to be moving in such a good direction. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
All right. When you say things like record low inventory, does that make you nervous as being a realty expert?
No, because I've been through this once. I've been a realtor for 6 years. Or this is my 7th year now. I've seen this before. Like when I started in real estate, inventory was very, very low. And so the things that you need to be ready for if you're coming into a market like this is you just need to be very decisive as a buyer. You need to know what you want, and when you see it out there, you have to be ready to pull the trigger because you are going to experience more competition, more buyers out there at once. A lot of buyers all want the same thing. You have to be ready to fight off multiple offers. But then on the flip side, if you're selling your home during this time in order to buy your next one, you're in luck because you're going to have a much easier time getting top dollar during these market conditions than you would in any other market conditions.
So when you mention record low inventory, I would imagine if you're not a very good realtor, maybe you might get a little nervous, but I would imagine guys like you, not a problem then.
Not a problem for me, and to be honest, it's even a little bit easier market because working with buyers doesn't take as much skill, and working with listings still takes a lot more skill than working with buyers. But during this type of market, it's a time when you're going to get record sales. You're going to see record high sales. And if you're asking if it seems like a bubble or anything like that, I don't think so, because when you look at the last 5 years, the average, I guess I don't have it written down, but the average sale price has stayed pretty stagnant for the last 5 years. It's risen only from about 240 to like 245 in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Remember how I said it rose about 40 grand in like 3 years before that?
Yep.
So things have been in kind of a plateau. So in my mind, we're kind of due for maybe one of those cycles that we go through where prices do rise. If you're a buyer, that should ring some bells in your mind that say, okay, maybe I want to get in on the early end of this. In hopes that the market will go up in the next couple of years and you're not stuck at buying a more expensive house.
Right. And there's another good thing to that too. If they're not jumping up that much in average cost is, you hear a lot of complaints in Grand Forks about property taxes. So that's got to help a little bit too.
Yeah. It's possible. Maybe this assessment's will lag behind a little bit for a little while.
Sure.
It's, and for affordability, people might say, oh, this doesn't sound like a good thing for affordability. But when interest rates are really low and you're locking that in for 30 years, that increases affordability.
Yeah.
You can now afford a bigger, nicer house, or you can get into the same house with a much lower payment. Or if you want to be conservative and really money smart, get a 15-year loan.
Okay.
It's a great time to look into those type of options.
Sure. Or, what was I going to ask you again? I'm kind of lost right now.
Here's another thing I'll bring up before I forget. Fewer failed sales this year. So when we look at failed sales, those are people who listed their home and then had to cancel the listing, withdrew it, or expired. Essentially, they failed to sell their house. When we add up the canceled, withdrawn, and expireds, from last year, 354 listings canceled, withdrew, or expired. 254 this year. 100 fewer failed sales, even though fewer homes listed. Well, I guess those two things might go hand in hand, but people, it also shows more serious people did list their home this year. The less serious people stayed on the sidelines, maybe.
Okay, now when you say expired sales, what does that mean?
Oh, expired listings.
Or expired listings?
You call me up to sell your home, and we missed the mark on the price, and it sits, and we have a 6-month listing agreement, and it's been 6 months now. We still haven't been able to sell your home. I say, John, do you want to renew your listing agreement with me? You say, no, I think we should just take it down, and we just let it expire. Your house comes off the market.
Okay. Now,
Failed to sell.
why does that? I mean, that can't happen very often, does it?
Well, as you can see here, I mean,
And if you can't sell it in 6 months, there's got to be a reason for that.
yeah, there are. Obviously, it's happening, right? So, you know, it could be people getting bad advice from their agent. It could be just kind of a, you know, maybe they missed something simple with staging that's causing it to turn off buyers. Maybe it's a really unique home, and it just takes a really unique buyer, and it just wasn't able to sell in that time period.
Yeah, and I mean, what we're talking about now, it all sounds like a downer, but this just isn't Berkshire Hathaway numbers. This is all
the entire
realtors
market, yep.
in the whole Grand Forks area.
Exactly. And this is in Grand Forks alone, actually. This is how many were in Grand Forks alone.
Okay.
Whenever I give numbers, I typically give Grand Forks numbers because that's my niche. I do 95% of my business in Grand Forks, some East Grand Forks too, but mainly Grand Forks. So, you know, the biggest thing is somebody overpricing their home. You know,
that's what I would imagine.
Wanting to get a number that the market doesn't support, and they just try to hang it out there, and it doesn't work. We tell them over and over, you know, buyers are so educated. You're not going to sell a $250,000 house for $300,000. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
But some people try for themselves. I'm not the agent to call for that, but apparently there are agents out there that will do that. You know.
Now, would it be a good idea? Well, no, it probably wouldn't, because we have stressed this so many times when we talk with you, John, about be prepared. You know, if you're looking to buy or sell, you want to be a couple of months ahead.
Yep.
So, and that's another important reason why they should meet with you, because well beforehand, because you, like you just said, you might think my house is worth $300,000.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, no, it's not. And we'll bring the people in to prove it that it's not. So,
or maybe you think it's worth 300, and I come in and I say, hey, you've had some great comps sell lately, and there's not much inventory. It's actually worth like 320.
Oh, okay.
Now you have more equity than you thought you did. That's why it's good to talk to me in advance, because now you've got more money to put down on your next one. So now maybe your budget changes for your next house, so you can be more prepared. Like you said, I think people have been listening. A lot of people listening to this show, because I've been having a ton of people who are well prepared lately, and it makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah.
And it makes them a lot happier.
Oh, I would imagine, because like you said, there are unforeseen surprises that do happen.
Yep.
And if you're ahead of the game, you're usually ahead of those unforeseen surprises too.
Yep. You're less likely to be in for an emotional roller coaster
Yeah.
in a bad way.
Oh boy, and I bet you've seen a few of those over the years too.
I have. And I hate to see
horror
it.
stories and well,
Causes an emotional roller coaster for me.
oh, I would imagine.
being in in on it.
Well, I mean, you could work for months with a client, and if something happens like that, it's like, wow.
I hate to see them get disappointed by something, even if it's
So if now the way you won't get disappointed is to get a hold of a realty expert, like we said, months in advance.
Yep.
Have all your ducks in a row. That way you're going to know about your financing. You're going to know what it's really worth, what you're going to be able to give them, but that's what you do.
Yep, that's what I do. So that's the biggest, that's what the really organized, well-prepared buyers and sellers, they're in touch with me months in advance to make this thing as easy and smooth on them as possible. They know what they want, and that's the way that they're going to get what they want. Yeah.
John Brodeen, realty expert from Berkshire Hathaway. How does somebody get a hold of you? Somebody wants to buy or sell?
Yeah, call or text me, 701-213-5428. That's my cell phone number. I'm talking to new people constantly. I love answering questions for people. Even if you're not going to be moving for a couple years and you want to run a couple questions by me, reach out.
So are you up to like meeting a client for a cup of coffee or any of that kind of stuff? I would imagine that's all part of the game, huh?
Do it all the time. Yep.
You coming back on Friday?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect.
I'll be back.
All right. There you go. John Brodeen. He's your realty expert from Berkshire Hathaway and their Berkshire Hathaway biweekly podcast. Always good to have John in the studio. He's always prepared. He's a numbers guy. He's got his crap together. So if you're looking to buy or sell, you got the number, 701-213-5428. Stay tuned. Another Berkshire Hathaway biweekly podcast coming up Friday morning. Till then, have yourself a great week.